Hey everyone, Dr. Josh Jagoda here, and today we're going to get into what you can do right after an injury. So a lot of times what happens is somebody gets an injury and they immediately start Googling something, and the first thing that comes up is rice. Yep, rice. Rest, ice, compression, and elevation. And a lot of this information is really accurate with one exception. And now they have changed the rest, the R part, from rice to mice, which is movement, ice, compression, and elevation. So all they really did is take one thing away, and that is rest. Because rest is proven over and over again to really just mean sit down and do nothing. And sitting down and doing nothing for your injury doesn't do anything good for you. So really the first thing that you want to do is really start establishing good movement patterns. Yes, after you get injured, you do want to take a rest. Will you be able to perform the exact activity? No. Will you have the full strength? Probably not. Will you maybe have swelling? Yeah, you may have all that. But at the end of the day, it's not going to be complete rest. You're still going to be doing arm circles or ankle pumps, or if you hurt a wrist, you're going to be moving your wrist back and forth. Maybe your fingers back and forth. Maybe the joint above and below, or above and below the wrist, right? Same thing with the knee. You're going to be moving your hip around, maybe your pelvis, maybe your core, and then maybe a little bit of your foot and ankle if you're talking about a knee, right? So you're not really going to be isolating a full-blown rest. If you hurt your back, you're not just going to sit on your back, sit in bed for the rest of the time until the injury gets better, right? You're going to want to move. And mice versus rice, in the research, what they show is that people who start moving a lot sooner tend to have slower or faster recovery, I should say. So they'll have a better progression. So if you're here and now you're here because, or you want to get to here because this is where your I guess you'd say your goals are or your activities are, but now you suffer an injury, you have to fill in that gap in between. And by doing the complete rest, you're actually setting yourself back further. So again, rice versus mice. Those are the two major differences that you'll see when you start Googling things, but you may not see the mice too much. So really guys, if you really just injured yourself, make sure you restore that movement. Make sure you restore some movement patterns. And the reason we talk about mice or movement, I also like to use and interchange those words from movement to mobility, because after you come back from an injury, the number one limitation is movement and mobility. So guys, keep that in mind. You have to start moving as soon as possible. Even if you're completely swollen and things like that, it's really more beneficial to get movement when you can. I'm not saying right away, but when you can and that injury is stabilized, make sure you get some movement to help improve your recovery and speed up that healing so you don't have some sort of chronic problem in the future, alright? Thanks guys, I'm Dr. Josh Jagoda, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Hopefully you found this useful, and I'll see you guys for the next episode. Bye.